Okay, this is continuing with simulations. This is scenario 2, and it's page 9 of your note spiral. Suppose the probability that an exploratory oil well will strike oil is about 0.2 or 20%. Conduct a simulation to answer the following questions. Assume that outcome oil or no oil for any one exploratory well is independent of outcomes from the other wells. That's important later on in statistics. Use the random number table below and conduct 20 trials. Clearly identify each trial on the table. Now, first off, we need to figure out what we're going to assign. And they said 20%. Well, so the question is, do I want to use 1-digit or 2-digit numbers? If you have a choice, it will be faster to use 1-digit. If you have a choice between 2-digit and 3 digits, it's faster to use 2 digits. All right, and you're like, well, how do I know? What can I use? So let's take this. 20% over 100 equals x over 10. All right. If when I solve it, I can do that and get a 1-digit number, in which case, in this case, I can. But if x can be a 1-digit number, then I can use 1 digit. If it's a 2-digit number, then I'm stuck with 2 digits. Here, I can use 1 digit. Now you're going, hey, since it's 20%, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, because I have a couple of choices with 1 digits. I can go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 0. I can do that. And 20%, that would be 2 numbers. Over here, I can do this. Well, if I did that, I still have 6, 7, 8, 9, and 0, and all of these are skips. The fewer skips you use, the faster you can go. So while either one is correct, using all the 1 digits will be much faster. Okay, so here we go. So I will work from left to right, choosing single-digit numbers. And I chose to use 0 and 1 to represent oil strikes. You could have chosen 1 and 2, and that would have been fine. All right. And then I'm going to say 2 through 9 represent wells that did not strike oil. 20 trials will be run and 98 wells were drilled. And you're like, well, wait a second, Mr. Spencer. You said I could have used 1 and 2. Could I use 6 and 7? Or 3 and 11, 3 and 9? Yeah, you could have. Okay. I always like to choose side-by-side numbers because it makes it faster. So I would have chosen 0 and 1, or 1 and 2, or 8 and 9 to be represent wells. All right, because otherwise it gets confusing. Don't do something to confuse yourself. Don't do something to confuse me as the grader, because that might hurt you on your score. All right. So 0 and 1 represent oil strikes. You're like, well, wait a second. My neighbor used 1 and 2. Aren't they going to get different answers? Yes, they will. All right. And that's why it's a simulation, and that's why you do it over and over and over again. Because if you did it over and over and over and over and over an infinite number of times, they would look almost exactly the same. All right. It might be slightly different. They'd be really, really close. So we can't answer this question or this question until we actually run the simulation. So let's run the simulation. Okay. So I'm going to estimate the average number of wells needed to drill a single well in order to strike oil. 4, nope, nope. 1, yes, that struck well. Oil, how many wells did I have to drill? 1, 2, 3. So for my first trial, I had to drill 3 wells. My next trial, not oil, not oil, not oil, not oil. Now, some of you are going, hey, didn't you say it's easier to start a trial on a new row? And the answer, yes, it is. Not sure why didn't you? I didn't because I didn't have 20 rows. All right, if I'd had 20 rows here, I would have done that. But since I didn't, I'm just going to continue. So didn't. I had 4 wells. So the second trial, 4 wells. Then it was 2. Then, hey, I lucky struck it on the first one. Hey, again on the first one. And then I go, and I started counting all these up. I had to drill 19 wells. Pretty much going to be bankrupt by that point. All right, because I didn't strike oil for 19 wells. Okay, then we had 10, then we had 2, and we kept going. And then we got over here and it's got really, really weird. So there's 1, there's 2, there's 3, there's 4, wraps around. There's 5, there's 6, there's 7, there's 8, there's 9. So it's okay for it to wrap around. So this ended up being my table. I'm going to pause here and let y'all, I'm going to pause and let you copy this down for just a second. You may need to pause the video yourself. And then I'm going to slide this up so you have the table. Okay. So when I added all these up, I ran 20 trials and I added up all the number of wells and it ended up adding up to 98 wells. So basically it's going to be 98 over 20. So based on the simulation, we'd expect to have to drill 4.9 wells in order to strike oil. Now, what was our worst case? Our best case scenario is we struck it on the first well. The worst case, it took 19 wells. So you can see that there's a lot of variation. So then it says, what is the probability they'll take fewer than 3 attempts to strike oil? Well, if I sit there and I look, it says fewer than 3. Well, that's this one, this one, this one. And I just go through the list and mark all the ones that are fewer than 3. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So 8 times it was fewer than 3, or 35% of the time. So based on our simulation, we'd expect it to take fewer than 3 attempts 35% of the time. So if we did this over and over and over again, 35% of the time we'd strike oil in less than 3 times. All right. What's the probability that it'll take exactly 6? Well, at that point, I need to sit there and look at the table, and it's like, oh, 6 occurred 1 time. All right. Oh, excuse me. 6 occurred twice. I didn't see the last one. So 6 occurred here, and it occurred at the very bottom one. So it happened twice. So 2 out of the 20 times, or 10% of the time, oil was found on the 6th well. So once again, I'm going to let you get that and that. All right, pause the video when you need to. Okay, all right.